Welcome to UNCUT with Why podcast, where we discuss topics that helps, harms, and honor our community. We speak unapologetically and say everything that y'all are afraid to say. Here we're going to tell the truth uncut. Now let's talk. Yes, let's talk. Welcome back to another show with UNCUT with Why podcast. Today I have a special guest, Apostle Bishop Q. Josiah Thomas, born in 1978 in Alliance, Ohio, to Prophetess Etta and Archbishop Michael Thomas. Q was raised in holiness and Pentecostal churches, gifted with dreams and visions. He began operating prophetically at a young age. Excelling academically and athletically, Q attended college at 16 but faced incarceration at 21. During his 16 years in prison, he earned multiple ministerial certifications and advanced diploma in religious studies. Released in 2016, Q married, later divorced, and has 6 children. Has transitioned from female to male in 2019. He founded the Real Center of Atlanta in 2020 to offer non-traditional ministry focused on love and inclusivity, ordained and affirmed in various leadership roles. Let's welcome my friend Q.
Doing good. Thank you all for having me.
Up in the church. You know we got to talk about that.
Oh my. How much time do we have? No, I'm just kidding. So let's specify growing up in the Black or African American church, and specifically under the denomination of Pentecostal and holiness. Looking back now, I kind of appreciate it, but back then as a child, I feel like it was a little extreme and excessive. It was the whole Sodom and Gomorrah, don't cut your hair. You got to wear, as a female at that time, skirts and dresses to your ankles. No sex before wedlocks. In church at least 5-6 days a week. And being that my mother and my father were the senior leaders at the time, the Thomas children, we had to do everything from take the offering to pray to sing. People in the community at school, they knew who we were. So if we were doing anything outside of holiness, we were snitched on, told on. And our punishment, get this, was fasting. So I'm talking about, I can remember at 7, 8, 9, and 10 years old being at school and the Thomas children being placed in the hall because we had to fast. We couldn't get no graham crackers, no animal crackers, no little juicy juices because we were fasting. And my mom said, as a child, I'm like, why I can't get no fruity pebbles? Right. So yeah, it was a bit excessive, but I will say spiritually that a lot of things were implanted with me. However, I feel like I was born who I was born spiritually anyway, so I knew that spiritual gifts and atonement was a part of my life and future. But as a child, like I wasn't thinking on those things. I wasn't ready for that. So I feel like it was a bit much and a bit overwhelming and very, very sheltered. So once I got a little piece of freedom in my teenage years, it was over.
So, being that you grew up in this strict home, with pastors and ministers and fasting, how could someone like that end up in prison?
And I'm still struggling with that thought and concept to this day. Like I said, all I knew was church, being good, righteous, holy, loving to people. And so when I got my freedom, my first taste of freedom going to college from Ohio to South Georgia, it was nothing but marijuana, girls, school, basketball. And so I didn't really have like a criminal mindset. I was hanging around some people that were involved in some things. Was I aware? I was surface level, but I really didn't know how deep in they were. And so when I got my charges for prison, they were doing things with my vehicle that I did not know about per occasion. I knew they were kind of little in the little gang life, but they were teenagers. They was like 17, 18, 19. And so I was trying to mentor them positively in a sports intramural program. It was actually a program at Albany State University called NYSP, and it stands for National Youth Sports Program. And so we took underprivileged kids, from the projects and neighborhood, brought them on campus. I had a 4-year basketball scholarship there and a 2-year academic scholarship. So I would bring them on campus to scrimmage them in football and basketball. And they just end up doing a bunch of crazy stuff. Like when I was out of town playing basketball, they were robbing people, trying to do gang initiation. and things of that nature. So that just kind of spilled over, and it just started rolling downhill from there.
And bring into, out of the
Absolutely.
streets, they committed all these crimes in
Yes.
your vehicle.
Absolutely. That's literally and absolutely what happened. And I was charged as the mastermind because, like I said, I was 21. It's like my second year, third year in college. They were like 17, 18, 19. So, yeah, I found out all of that after the fact, though. Didn't know it during my trial, during my incarceration. I really didn't get all that information until about a year when I was in like the halfway house before I came home.
All that time.
All that time, yes, I realized who they were, what they were doing. Some of the commission of crimes they had already committed, been committing. And my co-defendants, crazily, they did not go to prison when I went. They actually just got locked up like 3 or 4 years ago for a bunch of old crimes and murders. And I mean, I was hanging around some people I had no idea I guess the severity of the type of people they were. Being 21, I was a little gullible, like I said, because I grew up churchy. So I mean, I did fight and get in trouble as a kid, rebelling and stuff, but it was not to the point that had legal ramifications.
So to be clear, how long did you do?
16 years total.
That long. I mean, because 21 is still young. We
Yes.
haven't all fully just, got our grown woman, grown man on yet at that age. So what was that like for you being locked up that long?
Initially, I can't even lie. Being raised how I was with God and spirituality and faith, I would say my first 3 to 5 years, I was a straight, I don't know if I can curse on here, but I was a straight butthole. And I just was so angry and bitter because I felt like all this grooming in church and trying to live and be for God, like why and how could I end up, like I said, I was in college playing ball, had kids, wasn't, milking the system, welfare, food stamps. Like I literally was working. I was selling a little marijuana on the side, for extra years, but I don't feel like I was doing anything that crazy or bad with my life to be ostracized or incarcerated. So I was depressed. I was bad, fighting, being a womanizer, having inappropriate relationship with staff members. So it was bad. It was very emotionally and mentally traumatizing for me. But kind of when I got my bearings, I started just trying to, I guess, cope with my time better. Maybe 6, 7 years into it, but it just seems it was a long journey, and I've been home 7 to 8 years, but it still feels like I was locked up longer than I was free. If that makes any sense.
Like a real big support system and visitations and things like that?
Hell no. I may have seen my children and parents 3 times out of 16 years. I didn't even know what my kids looked like. I had dated a few females the last 4 or 5 years of my incarceration, and they actually, because I didn't know what a Facebook was, went on Facebook and got pictures of my family and children for me because I had no idea how they looked. My kids was like 6 months, 2, 4, and 6 when I went in, and when I came home, they was what like 16, 18, 20, 22. They was grown. Well, nothing for me to do. Really,
Keep
but try
no
to.
type of relationship with them. That's unfortunate.
Yeah, nah, I
Okay, well,
didn't.
tell me what that was like picking that back up when you got out then.
Man, it was horrible. Like I had to get in therapy because it was very emotionally draining, traumatizing. I feel like I had to buy myself back into the good graces of my family and children, and they had been told several different things while I was incarcerated. All type of stuff. They went through things, abuse that I did not know about until I came home. So it was some very emotional stuff. And me and my youngest daughter, we had got a pretty good bond when I first came home. My oldest son, he ended up being like a few months before I came home. My son had got incarcerated. He caught a charge kind of similar to mine, hanging with the wrong people, and he ended up catching a life sentence. So I wasn't even able to live or meet and talk and see my son, my oldest son, which is the one I had the best relationship with because he was oldest when I got incarcerated. So it was hard, man. It was hard. I'm still reeling from that today, and I've been home almost 8 years, so it's still kind of rocky with my youngest son. Me and my two daughters, we're good. My oldest son, we tight lock, but it didn't happen overnight. It took a lot of not talking, a lot of forgiveness, a lot of understanding, a lot of therapy, a lot of prayer, and just things that they did not know and realize that I had to break down and tell them. And not no pun against my parents, like I love and appreciate them. I feel like they did the best they could do, but it's like it's crazy because like my kids accuse my parents of doing some things, and my parents accuse my children of doing some things. So I was like caught in the middle when I came home of trying to love and want to be with everybody because we were very family oriented before I went in. And when I came out, the dynamics of those relationships, it was horrible. It was horrible. I'm telling you, it was horrible.
Oh, I think that's still good to tell the listeners though, because there are people incarcerated right now, getting ready to get out, haven't seen their kids, want to know how they're gonna, take me, because kids can come home like, how can you tell me anything? I don't even know you. So you're letting them know that if both parties are willing to, give it a chance and do the work, they can reunite and it can be a beautiful
Absolutely.
relationship. Yeah, that's good.
Restoration is absolutely possible. And I kind of feel like I don't say played, but I end up because my case was expunged. I was compensated. The state of Georgia, and a lot of people don't know this because I don't put people in my business because I've learned that people will fall in love with your hand and not your heart. And so I had received some compensation from the state of Georgia. They paid me like I think it was like at that time $33.43 a day to house a prisoner. I let people do the math. So I was compensated at that rate for the 16 years I was locked up. So I end up trying to buy my children, feeling obligated, putting them in an apartment, buying them cars, messing up my credit, just doing a whole bunch of stuff. And it's like they still didn't have that love and appreciation for me. And when I told them, like, I didn't just wake up one day and say, F my kids, let me go to prison. Like, I loved y'all. I took care of y'all. I took y'all on campus with me. Y'all traveled when I played basketball. Y'all traveled when I did ministry because I used to sing. I was like, so I just didn't abandon y'all like that. And then when they heard some stories of my childhood and upbringing, it was like, oh, why would you leave us with your parents and it's dysfunction? So I still to this day, y'all, get blamed for my children's trauma, and I was not physically there. And so that's something that people, especially in the African American community, they don't talk about it. They just cover stuff up, brush it under the rugs. But y'all, I'm spiritual. I love God. I'm grateful that my mind and my heart is in a different and better space than it was when I was incarcerated and before I was. And I just try to share that education, that knowledge, that wisdom, that emotional perspective with people for growth, for positive growth in our community, because I don't want everybody to be a statistic due to post incarceration trauma. And that just isn't the person that was incarcerated. It affected the family members as well.
To be clear, I did meet you in prison. That's where I met you at.
Yep.
And so I was gonna ask, did you think that being incarcerated was the inspiration behind you, like in same sex or whatever? But you did say that you were doing that before you went to prison, correct?
Yes, absolutely. Yep. Yep.
Growing up in ministry, did your parents get behind that? You getting married to a woman?
Um, my mom, she has always been on the fence because she preached, taught Sodom and Gomorrah. Homosexuality is a spirit, it's a demonic force, to the point where she used to put holy oil down my throat. Used to lay me down and put holy oil and just rebuke the lesbian and gay demons and cussing them from me as a child. So when I came out back open like that, I actually heard that. Well, first of all, let me put this disclaimer out there. I had asked my mother, no matter what happened during my incarceration, keep all of my children together because I knew about the system. My mom and her sisters did foster care. So we had children in and out of our lives. So when I went and I knew I was facing that time, I said, all I'm asking you to do, just please don't let my kids get lost in the system. Don't separate them. So she kept them together. And so when she found out I was really, really like that and doing it more when I was incarcerated, she basically was like telling my kids the reason why I can't come home is because I was choosing women, PUSSY, over my freedom. I was like, if I could just say I ain't gonna get no coochie and get out of prison or jail, you don't think I would have did that? So that was the aura or the vibe that my kids got. Like I chose women in prison over them. And so a lot of trauma came from that. And when I came home and introduced the female that I ended up marrying, they were okay with it. They didn't like her at all. My one of my only one of my children was okay with her. They grew to kind of care about her, but it was a very toxic and dysfunctional marriage. After the first 4 or 5 years, it just went to hell. So it was like, yeah, I told you so. That's why, because God ain't pleased with that. Whatever.
Eventually, you did get your mama's approval, I guess.
I ain't gonna say approval. I just think she just it got to a point where I was the funds. I ended up having to move my family down here because they were facing some challenges. And again, I was compensated. So I was throwing out money here, move. I'm gonna give y'all 5, 10,000, just come on, move. I felt like they tolerated my sexuality and relationship because of what I did for them. That's my feeling. I'm not saying it's facts, but I feel like that was the case.
Too, when I came home with Jayla, because I did go to the halfway house and I worked and made a nice little piece of change and stuff. So
Yeah.
I threw the biggest birthday parties, all the characters from Dora, Boots, everybody was there, when realizing that you can't get that time back. So I don't care how much money you spend, you can't get that time back. So listen,
Totally.
you mentioned that you do non tradition ministry. Can you tell us
Yes.
what that means?
Basically, because I founded it myself. I don't fall under the hierarchy of the normal Christian or African American Baptist or Holiness Church. I have my own bylaws, my own SOPs. I just don't have a minute. I don't say the word church, number one, because I feel like there's a bad stigma with church, as far as the hypocrisy and the judgmentalness with the LGBTQIA community. You know, you have a saying out here that people say gay and God does not belong in the same sentence. So I am very spiritual, and I feel like spirit doesn't have gender, just like feelings doesn't have a gender. And if God or creator is a spirit, I don't feel like he is so consumed with the attributes of our physical fleshly life, meaning we're going to make choices and decisions. If he knew that we were not going to be perfect, if you believe in Christ, that he wouldn't send his son Jesus. And I feel like I'm covered under grace. And I just refuse to believe that because my spirit is so good and pure and perfect towards people, towards mankind, God's other creation. And I'm a firm believer of I treat people and things the way I want to be treated. And I just feel like if God is pleased with my service unto his people, why would he kill me, make me go to hell because of my sexuality? And fast forward, I'm trans. I don't even live as a female or woman. I'm more legally. The Bible says, obey the laws of the land. I'm a legal man. So I'm with a woman. So I don't feel like I'm part of that. But the LGBT community that I serve, I never want to make a human feel like what they do or what choice they make with their life will cause them to go to hell or cause God not to see or heal them, because the foundation of God is love. He made mankind because of love. You know what I'm saying? So that's just my foundation.
People that grew up like in traditional setting and definitely feel like what you're doing is a sin. Are you able to reach them in your church and your
Yeah,
ministry?
I have heterosexual people, Asian, Hispanic, Latino, um, white. I have a diverse group of people. I've even had Muslim people come and worship with us, people that were atheists, because we're so spiritual. And again, we teach principles of love. We don't teach, that people just going to hell. And not that I don't believe in it, not the Bible. I went to seminary, so theologically speaking, I have a different perspective and interpretation of God's word and the reasoning for cultural or sacred writings at the time. That's like a whole nother deep thing. People hate to get into biblical wars with me because I'm the one. I don't cut no corners when it comes to spirit. I don't need God, Jesus, title, whatever. Humans come up with these interpretations and perspectives of who they think God is, of what they think he came or why he sent his son or whatever. People just different. So I don't get into all that. I just get into love.
A lot of people follow the Bible. Are you saying you don't?
I'm not going to say we don't follow, but we don't teach and preach from it a lot. We are a more practical congregation. We teach and preach off of experience. We teach and preach again love. The real center stands for reaching everyone equally with love. And without love, you can't attempt or approach or please God anyway. So if you ain't doing nothing, if you doing church and Bible but you don't love people, if you doing church and Bible but you're judging people, it's like what's the point? I think those are the modern day Sadducees and Pharisees that try to put the LGBT community into a box because of their sexuality. Again, there's no gender with God. You can't say God is a man or a woman. Whoever seen it or him, it's a spirit. And so I live and teach off of spiritual things, and then whatever spiritually is that you're conformed to, what's in your heart, that's the way you'll live, and that's what you'll do with your flesh. Again, I don't think that my sexual choices or the way I'm with a person in relationship has bearing on whether God likes or loves me or not. He's a spirit.
You say you do have heterosexual in the church, but is your church mostly the LGBT community? Is it pretty much that what it is?
Um, I can't say it's like half and half. Honestly, it's really half and half, and they don't care about that. Like this is we're being effective. You have regular churches, Baptist Christians, that are the leaders are sleeping with multiple people, beating their wife, molesting kids, taking advantage of people financially, getting the tithes and offers, buying jets and stuff like that. So I don't feel convicted. And again, people they don't really cross or judge me. They don't come to me like, oh, what you doing going to hell? They like to say I'm going to hell for being trans because I'm saying that God made a mistake with my body. I said, no, I'm not. Y'all saying God made a mistake when y'all get weave, eyelashes, BBLs. We're altering a physical fleshly body, which if you want to go Bible again, Bible says flesh and blood does not inherit. So what does my gender or genitalias matter to the Spirit of God?
With a full face and makeup and lashes. Did I just catch that straight that you just threw
Nah,
at me?
a little shade. We're altering our appearance, and so this body is not gonna go to heaven or hell because it's flesh. It's what we do with our spirit and our heart. In my opinion, my perspective, my teaching is what matters. People are being healed and changed at the real center, whether they're gay or straight. When we're singing and we're being pure and genuine with people, that's my only that's my pitch. Like I'm not out here trying to convert and make people be holy or say it's okay or not okay to smoke, drink, be okay. That's not up to me. What is up to me is to plant the spirit of love and the spirit of creator into you. And in the choices you make, that's up to whoever you believe in, your higher power. That's not on me. I'm a human like you are.
I have two more questions about that and we'll move forward. So, we all say that, God don't make any mistakes and you are now a man. So, do you feel like that was a mistake that God made creating you as, like you said, this is a spirit that created
I,
you as a woman?
I won't say that it was a mistake. I'll just say that he gave us free will and choice. That's my liberty and my liberation in order for me to live free in this body. The Bible also talks about, being in society, being in the world and being not conformed to the world. That's a conformed law and justification from society. How can you tell me what or to do with my body? God, yes, you created me, and I was only alive when He blew the breath of life into my lungs, and I became a living soul of being. So again, I feel like God's spirit and presence is inside of me, and if I came against that or made a mistake, why would He allow me to live? I'm effective. I'm thriving. I'm prosperous. So I can't say that I have a conviction now. When I had some health challenges due to some of the sexual reassignment surgeries, I had a couple of mental moments where I say, "Well, God, did I mess up? Did I make a mistake? Are you punishing me? And how is He gonna punish you if He gave you free will or choice to do something?"
So the last thing I just want to say, how there are different things in the Bible that some people still choose to live by, even if they don't, interpret it the way everyone does. So do you do that? Like some things like communion, tithing, is that something you teach at your church?
Um, I I teach tithes and offering from the perspective of and we're actually gonna be talking about that this Sunday about how can you expect something if you don't give anything, like the seed and return process. And it's not really coming from a biblical. It's natural in life. If I drive my car around all day and don't put gas or oil in it, it's not going to work for me. So what you put into something, your life, your body, yourself, your ministry, your career, your family, is what will be the production out of it. And so I don't like I say I don't do the do's and don't. Um, I don't do the do's and don't of church hierarchy. Again, I do give the what word I want to use. I plant seeds. So I plant seeds. I'm realistic with them. You can't, why would you keep asking God for $1,000 and He can't trust you with 100? And so, but I don't come down with the iron or the Bible says it. And if you don't, you're going to hell. If you don't, you can't be a preacher. Like I don't have those type of do's and don'ts and hierarchy and rules or whatnot like that. So no, I don't come from those places.
Okay, all right, all right. So we're gonna move on from that. We're gonna talk about this transitioning because that's a powerful story. That's why I want to get you back so we can, I'm gonna do a part one and part two of that. But I do want to know at what point in your life did you just say, I don't want to live as a woman anymore. I want to be a man.
Actually, I came to that decision when I was like 17, 18. But of course, back there in the 90s, transitioning literally and medically was not something that I was really exposed to or thought was an option. But once I was incarcerated and I was hearing about it, I knew whenever I got a chance to come home that I was going to do it. And I ain't cut no corners and take no chances. When I came home and got the correct insurance that would foot this bill, I physically moved forward. But it was always in my mind to the point. What's that?
Got to tell people that your insurance foot the bill for you to have this sex change.
Oh yeah, so for the LGBTQIA community, Blue Cross Blue Shield and Kaiser Permanente are the most trans friendly and LGBTQIA friendly insurances. They have clauses and caseworkers that have LGBTQIA care only.
So
They
let's
will
talk
pay
about what
for
the
it.
process was like. I'm sure you had to prep for that. That wasn't just something that's a major
Yeah,
surgery.
absolutely. It was a lot of counseling and therapy initially, lots of physicals, lab works. Your body mass has to be a certain way. You can't have like major health issues. The types of surgery that I had was staged in three different stages. For the bottom part, the top surgery was a cake walk cake. It was easy. I didn't have a big chest anyway. You know that I was always tomboyish. I did that outpatient. I was healed in like a week or two. The bottom surgery, it was lengthy. They tried to. I found out, research and studying through experience, I should have spanned it across 2 or 3 years, but I did everything for myself in 1 year.
Or do you feel like you sped up the process? Is that what you were trying to do?
Um, I mean, medically, now I realize what some of the complications they were going to exist anyway. But had I have spaced them out, I probably would have had a little bit more healing time to heal physically and mentally and emotionally. Like say, it was a lot. The first stage, I literally was laid on my back for like 8 weeks with my legs cocked open, a new piece of genitalia propped up on the pillow. So it was a lot. Blood drains, catheter, infections. So yeah, and they gave me different options. Of course, I get the option of what part of my body I want it grafted, you know, aesthetically, size, thickness, girth, all that. But it is a lot. It is a lot.
Size of your penis.
Yeah.
I,
Oh yeah.
I bet you heterosexual men wish they could do that.
Oh yeah. They
But
a lot of guys, man. You ain't no real man. I don't know why. But it's saying head, balls, shaft, everything. What can you say?
man,
That's what they be saying. The only thing I can't do is produce sperm cells for kids, which I already have biological kids, so I don't need to. I'm about to be 50. I ain't trying to make no kids and babies anyway, if it were a possibility. But yeah,
and you have
yep.
feeling, and it's like a real thing for you.
It's a real thing. Sensation, feeling, orgasms, not being too raw and uncut, but everything. Yes.
Make you regret doing it.
Like I think that I had regret, like I said, a couple times. Specifically when I was in ICU getting blood transfusions, and I don't know if you know the education on being septic or sepsis. My father actually passed from being sepsis. It causes multiple, um, it causes multiple organ failure. So the complications, I've been in and out the hospital several times, and I did have a regret, a moment of regret, but like I say, the aesthetic and the feeling and with the relationship I have with my fiance, I wouldn't change it for the world. But if I had to start over and do it again, I would literally rethink it, maybe like slowing down the process. But I just feel like I was not educated and I did not receive a lot of resources as far as what I was going to face post surgery. That is something they do not prepare or educate you on. And so I tell a lot of trans people, it affects people differently. I know a couple of guys that have worse complications than me and can't use their part at all. And I know some that have detransitioned because of the amount of complications. So I mean, it affects everybody different. Yeah, you can detransition like as far as hormones, but as far as I went, and I can't go back. Mine is not reversible.
Oh wow, we definitely
I
gonna
don't
touch
have the
on that.
option to be. If I get reversed, I just get it chopped off. I won't have no sex life at all. Cause yeah,
Is wanting to do this like right now, you would tell them to go for it. You'll
I
just
would
pray
tell them
them.
to take their time, do a lot of research study, make sure they are in the healthiest place they can be physically, medically, psychologically, mentally, and spiritually, because again, it's a lot. It's a lot of downtime. Yeah, a lot of downtime.
Like a breast reduction, and I was like pitiful. So I mean, I can't. I'm talking about seriously, real bad in the bed for like a month. Didn't even want to
Oh
bathe or
wow.
anything. I'm so serious.
Yeah.
I'm a baby when it comes to surgery.
And
Don't
that
you
just
know?
causes you being depressed too, because like say you just be stuck to the bed, like you can't do nothing.
House, right? Because that's what
Yeah,
I am, So and I couldn't do
yeah,
anything. So I understand that. So we're gonna come back. Q, I'm so glad you pulled over for me. We're
no
gonna do
doubt.
uncut with Wow on the road today. But I do want to get you back in here. Is there anything you want to end with before we get out of here?
My motto: treat people like you want to be treated, man, and life will go well with you, regardless of your religion or your sexuality.
Real quick, the real center of Atlanta. Where can they find it? Where's the location and the service
Um,
times?
we are at 2814 Normanberry Drive in Atlanta, Georgia. We have in-person service every second, third, and fourth Sunday. We're always virtual and live on Facebook at the Real Center of ATL page. We're on YouTube, we're on Instagram, and we are on TikTok.
I think my
And it's
listeners should go because listen, you can tell you ain't about to be judged.
no,
Not at
you
your
ain't about to
church.
be
That
judged.
definitely.
And real is it's the acronym. It's REEL, the Real Center of Atlanta. Yeah, I appreciate you all.
you for coming. I appreciate you for taking the time.
Absolutely.
I just want everybody to say this is a prime example of how live your life, be yourself. You never know what the outcome going to be anyway. So imagine not living your life and dying and never ever experience the things that you wanted to experience in life. Live out your dreams no matter what the world is saying. I want to
That's
thank y'all
right.
for watching. Please remember to like, comment, and share on this video. And I thank you for tuning in. I am a successful businesswoman. I have a business called WyWigs Beyond. You can find that at Wigs, WIGS 2024.com. I'm an author. I have a book called From a Pawn to a Queen, and I'm also an actress.
Dudeovadere Entertainment. We turn your fear of dreaming into amazing realities. If your dream is to become a photographer, we have a nice intimate photo studio just for you. If you want to record that next hit song or do voiceover work, we have a state-of-the-art studio also for you. If you want to professionally record your own podcast, well, we have that too. Check us out at www.TuneIn.com. We are the only ones to turn your fear of dreaming into amazing realities.